You're a first-time home buyer, wondering how you're going to come up with that down payment? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to show you how, and we're getting into it right now. Hey everybody, Dietric Williams, realtor with Compass, Baldwin Hills, California. Welcome back to another edition of Info on the Go, the show where I give tips, tricks, and insight on how to buy, sell, or invest in real estate in Southern California. If that sounds like something that you're interested in, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so that you're notified every time I upload new content to YouTube. One of the biggest challenges that many first-time home buyers face is coming up with the down payment. Now, that's especially true if you live in high-cost states such as I do, like California, or in a city like Los Angeles. And there's a little bit of myth going around that you need to put 20% down to cover your down payment, and that's not necessarily true. Now, 20% will help you to avoid what's called mortgage insurance, and let's just say that's a way that lenders use to basically hedge their risk from borrowers defaulting on loans. If you put down 20%, you're less of a risk. So you don't have to put down 20%, but if you do, just know you're probably going to avoid that mortgage insurance. Now, if you're not lucky enough to have a nice chunk of change to put down 20%, there are down payment assistance programs in virtually every state. Now, these programs are designed to help home buyers really alleviate the cost of home ownership by supplying either low or no interest loans or grants. And they typically come in 4 ways, and I'm going to talk about those 4. The first is what's called a grant program. Now, this is funding that's given to a borrower from an eligible third party that does not need to be repaid. So you can apply for a grant that will cover your down payment and you won't have to pay it back. Now, notice I said eligible. You can't go to your mom or to your cousin or an uncle, somebody like that, and say, hey, I know you have money, just give it to me and we'll call it a grant. It doesn't work that way. These funds typically come from government agencies or nonprofits designed to help, again, alleviate the cost of home ownership. So there's a way that you can get a grant that will help you cover your down payment and you will not have to pay it back. The second way is called a repayable second mortgage. Now, this is a subordinate, or what we call a junior lien or junior loan, that's given to the borrower at the time that escrow closes. They usually bear 0% interest, but they could be amortized or accrue interest like a regular loan, and they typically last anywhere from 5 to 30 years. On average, it's like 5, 15, or maybe 20, but sometimes I've seen them stretched out to 30 years. Now, these come in the form of a second mortgage, which means you have your main mortgage or your senior lien that you're going to pay on, or your senior loan that you're going to pay. And then you have the second mortgage, which you're also going to pay. So you just want to keep that in mind, that if you're looking for a repayable second, you're going to have 2 mortgage payments. The third way is what's called a deferred or silent second. And they call this silent because you really don't know that the loan is there. And that's because it's not payable until one of the following events happens. Usually when the owner sells the house, they refinance, they move out of the house, or they start to use that home as income generated property. Now, I'll discuss why this is important because there's certain qualifications later, but just know that the silent second is silent because there's no payment made until one of those events happens. The fourth way is called a forgivable second mortgage. Now, either all or some of the DPA is forgiven, and usually a percentage of the DPA is forgiven each year for a specified period of time. Now, these are kind of similar to the silent second in that they will have to be repaid if the borrower sells, refinances, or moves. So again, you just want to keep that in mind when you're shopping for which kind of DPA program best suits you. Now, if you're worried about coming up with the down payment and you just don't think that you're ever going to be able to own a home because of that, there's a few things that you can look into to determine whether you are qualified to do so. And some of those qualification guidelines includes you must be a first-time home buyer. Now, here's the caveat. First-time home buyer doesn't necessarily mean this is the first home that you've ever owned. It really means that you haven't owned a home in the past 3 years. So if you purchased a home 4 years ago, but you sold it, you are still qualified as a first-time home buyer. Other guidelines are that the buyer must be using this as their primary residence. So going back to renting out the property, if you're going to do that, just know that you will not qualify for that. So this program is not geared toward investors. Again, it's geared toward low to moderate income families. The other guideline is that the property has to fall into what's called a targeted census tract. Now, that's going to vary from place to place, but it could be something that usually outlines like what the median income for the area is, if it's in a low income area, whatever the case may be. But if it falls within a targeted census tract, you just want to know whether it does so that you can tell if that property is going to be eligible to be able to receive down payment assistance. Another big benefit of using DPA programs is that some will allow you to use some or all of your DPA towards your closing costs. This is huge because let's just say you're putting down 3.5%, you're still gonna have closing costs that will range anywhere between 2 and 3% of the purchase price. And if you can use your DPA to cover that and your down payment, that's a huge win. Now, you wanna just check with your local organizations or your local down payment assistance programs to make sure that closing grants are offered with the type of DPA that you're looking to get. Now, one resource that I like to use is downpaymentassistance.org. This will supply you with tons of information about local and national down payment assistance programs. And I just got an email from my local MLS, which is CR MLS here in Los Angeles, that they're going to integrate down payment resource into the MLS. So for those of you who are searching for homes, at some point you may see an icon that will tell you whether that property is eligible for down payment assistance. Other programs that are out there are programs like NACA or Chenoa. If you're going FHA and VA, those offer down payment assistance, sometimes closing costs as well. So you just want to do your research when you're out there searching for programs. They're not all the same. There are subtle differences and variations between each. So again, you just want to do your research, do your due diligence, and find out which program works best for you. So I hope that helps you guys who are out there looking to buy your first home, or maybe it's your second and it's been some time, but these are some great resources to use. As a side note, if you are in the market to buy, here's a piece of good news. The market is starting to shift. No, it's not necessarily becoming a buyer's market by definition, but the market is starting to see some slowdown. So we are seeing new properties hit the market, so increased inventory is coming. We're seeing longer days on market. We're seeing less bidding wars. That's huge for many of you who are going through buyer fatigue right now, where you were bidding on a property that had like 15, 20 other offers. So we're seeing less bidding wars. And because properties are staying on the market a little bit longer, buyers are getting savvy. So that's causing some downward pressure on prices in some areas. Now, that's not everywhere, but in certain areas, even here in Los Angeles, it's not all of Los Angeles, but there are certain communities within LA that we're seeing that happen. So again, I hope this information helps you. Happy house hunting, and I'll see you guys next time.